Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to look at Communications DLP, which is Microsoft Teams DLP. So we're going to create a Teams DLP policy that prevents sensitive information, in our car example, it would be credit card information, from being shared in a Teams chat or a Teams channel when there's a guest or an external user in there. We'll go through and create the policy first and foremost, and then we'll have a look on the actual device of what it looks like when a user tries to share that information. So let's take a look. As you can see here in my demo environment, I already have a Teams Financial DLP policy enabled. It's got internal and external sharing on, but just for this purposes of the video today, I'm only going to go through the external sharing. So let's take a look at this policy then. So again, your standard naming convention, and then you come down into the description. One thing I will say is that the user doesn't get a policy tip. Even though you configure the policy tip inside of the rule set, it doesn't actually pop up. The information is actually within the policy tip on the What I Can Do link, which I'll show you when we trigger the actual policy itself. But as I always say, the more information that you have in the description, the better for anybody that's coming along to understand what this actual policy does. Taking a look at the locations then, you're going to need SharePoint sites and OneDrive switched on if you want to prevent users from sharing items that have been marked with a sensitivity label or that contain the sensitive information types of which you're trying to block. In our example today, it's going to be credit card information. So if that user shares that link or a direct file from any of these two locations within Teams, that is also blocked, as well as just using the Teams chat and channel messages to do the actual copy and paste into. So all three of these will be needed. I see a lot of customers just enabling Teams chat and channel messages. And then when items are shared or links are shared through Teams, it's not actually blocked. This is why you actually need all three of these locations applied. As I mentioned before, I have two rule sets here. Today, we're just going to concentrate on the external one. So let's take a look inside of this rule set. So within the rule set then, I've just gone and grabbed all of the default sensitive information types from a financial services perspective to add in today. But more importantly, we're going to be trying the credit card number here. So I've changed the count to 1 to any, so we can just share one single credit card and it will trigger off, which makes it easier for this demo today. But taking a look through, we have the sensitive information types, as I've just said, and I've added them in by the condition here. Additionally, I have another condition, which basically is the content is shared from Microsoft 365, and I've set that to outside of my organization instead of inside. Then we have the actions, where we have restrict access or encrypt the content from Microsoft 365 location. So as soon as Teams detects that the user is a guest or an external user, it will block, and the action will be to block. Then we have the user notifications. Again, as I alluded to before, the policy tip is there, but it doesn't pop up like other DLP policies or other workloads. You actually have to click on a link to get that information out, but I'll show you that in just a second. Then we have the user overrides. I'm not going to use those for today's example. We have the alert. So simply, do you want that alert to go to a specific group of people or a certain person? Again, we'll take a look at this alert and the incident reports after the fact. The incident report then simply comes to myself as an admin. And again, I'm going to include all of these boxes here, but be wary. When we get that incident report through, it will show those credit card details. So just be cautious of who is actually collecting this type of information or this particular email rule. So you're not actually presenting an internal data risk at that point. And then we have the priority. So now we understand what that policy looks like. Let's go over to the Windows 10 machine. Let's open Microsoft Teams and let's try and share some of that credit card data. So I'm in Microsoft Teams now on my Windows 10 VM. And as you can see, I have a dedicated channel here for testing DLP. And I also have a guest user within this channel. Therefore, if I go ahead now and try and share that credit card data inside of this channel, it will come up and tell me that it's blocked. So let's try and do that. Open my sample file here. This is a great file, by the way. I'll give you the link to this in just a moment. And then I'll grab this credit card information here, which has the credit card number, the CVC, and then the expiry date. And then I'll come into Teams. I'll create a new conversation. And I'll say, here is the new credit card information for the company. And then I'll go ahead and share that. And there you go. Straight away it comes up telling you that it's blocked. Okay. So this message was blocked. And then you get this colored banner around it in a red color so you can actually see. And then you get the item at the top. Now, if I select now, what can I do? Here is where you see that policy tip that we created before. So you have to actually click on that to gather the information of what's inside of it, of why it's being blocked. And you can still see the message that you've tried to share, but other users inside of the actual channel will not be able to do, we'll be able to look at that information. So let's go over to Alex Wilbers and let's see if he can see that data. So I've just logged into Alex's team on the web here, and you can see that the message that Megan sent is actually blocked. And of course, you don't see any information in here. You just get the chance to reply to say, hey, you tried to just share something with me then, but I'm unable to see it due to organizational policy. So that's it in a nutshell, really. That's how you create the policy, and that's how the policy takes effect when you're sharing that type of sensitive information. Let's go and take a look now at the email alert and the incident report. So I've just come over here into my admin mailbox, and we can see I have two emails here, and I have one from 7:37 p.m. and then one from 7:39 p.m. That's literally a couple of minutes after I actually tried to share that information inside of that Teams channel. The first one I got was the actual incident report itself. So let's take a look at this. So we can see here we have a lot of information. We've got the service, which is Microsoft Teams. We have the sender, the channel name, the timestamp, and then the severity of the actual rule itself. Then we've got contains sensitive information. So we know that somebody has tried to share sensitive information within this Teams channel. More importantly, we get to see that data. So we have down here credit card numbers and a count of 6. So we can see the actual credit card numbers themselves that Megan tried to share inside of that Teams channel. This is why I was alluding to the fact before, when you enable this inside of the rule, just be cautious of who's consuming this data, because this, again, as I've said previously, and I say many times, this itself could actually be a data risk inside of your organization. So make sure that incident actually goes to the relevant people. Then we have the alert itself, the email alert, which just gives you a brief description of what's happened. So we see that the DLP policy match for team. We see that it has a severity of high because that's what we set in the rule. We have the date and the timestamp. We have the activity. We know that it's sensitive data because it tells us here. Okay, we know that this is the user, and we know that this is the policy that they violated. When we click on this, this will take us right into the rule. So let's take a look at that. So now that we have the alert details open, we can see the alert ID and other information within here. And of course, the user that triggered the actual rule itself. Now, if we go down to view details, this will open another window, which will give us more details. So within here, then, you can see a plethora of information, or more importantly, you can actually manage the alert itself, and you have the management log here as well if you need to go through that. And we have the status, so we have active. We can set this to investigating. We can assign a certain person to it should we wish to do so. So let's do that. Then we can add some comments into the box here. So let's add some comments in. We can save that. And then we can take a look at the other events around this particular user. So we can see what other events this user has triggered regardless of the DLP rule, they will all be collated inside of here. And this is the information that you get from in here. Again, you have the ability to view the sensitive information types which have been triggered, which are all in here. Here are all the credit card numbers that I tried to share. And then, of course, you've got the metadata of that as well. So should you need that, you can come in here to get that. And that's it. You've just built a DLP policy to prevent sensitive information from being shared inside of Microsoft Teams channels and chats when there's a guest or an external user inside of there. So just to recap, we created the policy. We then tried to share that sensitive information, aka the credit card information, inside of that channel where there was a guest user inside of it. That triggered, it blocked it. Then we got the incident report through and the email alert through, of which we took a look at inside of the data loss prevention alert panel here. I really hope that helps, and thanks for watching.